Hello, everyone. What's the X-Files episode? We're just jumping straight into the show. No countdown. Get in here. Get in here. It's book club time. Oh. I gotta say, I slept on X-Files. I just think I was like 5 years too young and I missed it completely because it was probably too scary when I would have been able to watch it. I reckon I would have eaten that show up. I reckon I would have loved it. Why, everyone? Oh, we got a hype train. Choo-choo. KB Dubs, thank you so much for tier 2, 44 months in a row. Really appreciate that. Avery, thank you for using your Prime for 26 months. Suck on that, Jeff. That's my $2.50 now. What are you going to do, Jeff? Sorry, I'm like in a mood still. Robin, thank you for 29 months. J Bun Rock, thank you for 35 and saying hello. Also, Vaidin, 7 days ago, thank you so much for your incredibly generous donations, saying I just realized I missed last month. But no, this isn't about me today, Vaidin. It's about you. And we're all going to sing you happy birthday really painfully. Are you ready? We've already done it before. Yes, again. Now it's live. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vaidin. Happy birthday. Wow, the views just like went all the way down to none. I wonder why. It's Vaidin's birthday today. No audio from Discord. It was just me singing that the whole time. Mother. No one talked. No one can hear you. It was just me. Oh, that was sweet. At least I was in tune. Was I in tune? I don't know, because you guys were bleating at me, drowning it out completely. Maybe I saved everyone from it. Audio, because I got a new one. It's wait, try now. Talk please. No, that's not it. Wait. No, that's not it. Okay, cool. There's like 5 audio and they're called AW Pro H wired game, wireless game, headset earphone H wireless chat, H wired chat. So there's 4 and I've got to figure out which. I think it's this one. Try now. Wrong, Maude, you suck. Still wrong. How many are left to try? Wireless. Try now. This is embarrassing. I don't know what to do. Except keep trying. Now. You know what I'm going to do? Yeah, well, no one heard that. You can get them all your swear words out now. Headphones, AW Pro H wired game. Why you got to call it that? H wired game. There it is. Go.
We good? We're good?
Yeah,
yes?
we're good. We're good. No more swearing. Oops, I just closed Discord instead of... are you still there? Do I have to open up Discord again?
Huh?
What
Here.
happened?
I just closed Discord.
We're still
What
here.
you do that for?
I'm still here.
Catch!
Realize
Catch just...
Why do you act surprised every time that happens?
I just...
Always.
It's very... Because it's very sweet. It's very nice. But it's like this rush on my notification. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Maude's Book Club. We're doing TJ Klune, Somewhere Beyond the Sea. It is a sequel to... I'll get it. The House on the Cerulean Sea, which we did, I believe it was November 2 years ago. Well, whatever. It was nice. I re-listened to it to interview TJ a couple of months ago. Why? Why that name? We all had a big chat. And when I say we all, I mean the Patreon members plus. We just had we were a bit late because we were just having a little bit of a, and we were not only singing Vaidin Happy Birthday atrociously, but we were having a big, and I usually don't publicly, we're having a big political chat because America.
Imploding.
Long blinks. So this is a nice little reprieve because this book's very, very sweet and wonderful, and we're going to be chatting about it for the next 2 hours. We're only going to be talking about the first half of the book. Just the first half. No spoilers, please. Anything from chapter 10 and beyond. No, we don't talk about it. A little apology because every single place book club was posted, whether it be the website, on Discord, or on social media, different information was put out there. We like to keep you on your toes. We want to see if anyone notices. I sure did. And so a little bit late, that's fine. It's just to chapter 9. And then we'll be going from 10 to the rest. And we've got 1 week to finish the book after this conversation. KP Dubs, 14 and 97 are football numbers. Just take the money. Thank you for the donation. Now I'm intrigued. No, see, Kate, no. Some places said it was up to chapter 10. It's November. Oh, we're over it. What does 14 and 97 mean, KP Dubs?
Number 14 is Detroit Lions wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. 97 is their defensive lineman Aiden Hutchinson.
Cool.
Who's out for the season.
Oh, you still... Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I was still talking. I'll stop now, though.
Okay. No, you weren't that. Thank you so much for the wonderful donation. Ropanda, thank you for 33 months in a row. 34 total. That's lovely. Now, Cash 22. You're on the throne. Most subs. Let's go through all of your gifted subs. And anyone, if I'm reading out your name, make sure you say thank you so much. Cash 22. Why isn't it? It's showing bits. It's because we've got a hype train level 5 at the moment. Cash 22's gifted subs too. Cry out 70. You know what? I'm not even going to read it properly. I'm going to glance and whatever my eyes catch, that's your name from now on. Cry out 77. Jacula Live. Shamazite. Heroes Simons. Justin for a drive. Kriship Strat Daddy. Why does that sound weird? Subcorrector. Evok Doc. The Boy. Jayhawker. Dahomey. Tresham. I can't say that one when my eyes go fast. Mika Helling, Craft Brew Boy, Angry Blackman. That's my friend Eric. I'll tell him. Elon Smusk.
Okay.
Philistine. Well, obviously Elon Musk doesn't need a gifted sub because they've got so much money.
I didn't get to pick who got the subs, Maude.
Enjoy it.
It was random.
Enjoy it. Nath Hawker, Ernie 6, Philistine, and Limitless Meta. Don't let me know if I've got your name wrong. It's just how that's going today. Captain Awesome Ball says, oh, thanks, KP. The length of time that this goes for is great. I don't know if anyone caught it in my stories, but on a plane, a guy played saxophone up and down the aisle of the plane.
I saw that.
And
that
when
what was that?
Mate, I don't know. I haven't flown Southwest before. Don't know if I'll do that again. But he didn't get the notes. He's a professional saxophone player for like a cover band. And he was doing and he got the note wrong. And I caught it. I posted it. And I was just like, what is this world? Shaya says the Titanic flute is just how we all feel this week, to be honest. You're not wrong. Angry Blackman is on here saying I got a sub. Shit! He said I got a sub. Yeah, you did. It's from my friend. So say thank you, Eric, to Tim. And now, Eric, you can use all our cool emotes. You got invited to take your Canadian citizenship test yesterday. Are you going to do it? Test today. Are you going to do it? Do you know when it'll all go through? Darren. Okay, you didn't pass the test. I was waiting for about another 6 months. That's what I was looking for. About another 6 months. About another 6 months. Yeah. Apparently the Discord sound's gone again. I tell you, I'm one little tech difficulty away from just telling you all about Dragon Age Veilguard. Oh, all time.
A much
Book club
bigger
without the
country.
technical
So we
difficulties.
have a lot of accents here.
Yes, I mean there's even French Canadian as well for a whole blob of the country. Not a country. No, my brain's not today. You'll tell me. You'll tell me. Hold on, did I go to say country and stop halfway and then it just became another word? That's on pussy power. Alrighty, let's get stuck into. Goddamn right. We're going to go through this book. Now, it is a sequel. We are doing spoilers. If you haven't read House on the Cerulean Sea, you've been sleeping on a good book, which is a bit of a bummer, but we're going to get into that. What is this book about? Well, we've got a plot. Thank you, Vaidin, for helping out with the Google Doc and characters and all that fun stuff. Hold on, I'm just going to make everything. No, I'm not. Here we go. Goodreads has given this one. Now, Goodreads has a really good habit of spoiling in the plot. Am I about to spoil? Are you reading ahead for me? Because I don't know if I'm going to do this completely. Anyway, we'll all get over it if I do. A magical house. A secret past, a summons that could change everything. Arthur Parnassus lives a good life built on the ashes of a bad one. He's the master of a strange orphanage on a distant and peculiar island, and he hopes to soon be the adoptive father to the 6 dangerous and magical children who live there. Arthur works hard and loves with his whole heart so that none of the children ever feel the neglect and pain that he once felt as an orphan on the very same island so long ago. He's not alone. Joining him is the love of his life, Linus Baker, a former caseworker in the department in charge of magical youth. And there's the island's sprite, Zoe Chapelwhite, and her girlfriend, Mayor Helen Webb. And together, they'll do anything to protect the children. But when Arthur is summoned to make a public statement about his dark past, he finds himself at the helm of a fight for the future that his family and all magical people deserve. And when a new magical child hopes to join them on their island home, one who finds power in calling himself a monster, a name that Arthur has worked so hard to protect his children from, Arthur knows they're at a breaking point. Their family will either grow stronger than ever or fall apart. Welcome to Marsyas Island. This is Arthur's story. A lot of questions I want to dive into, but obviously the first ones that we have. Oh my God, Captain Awesome Balls! I can't believe you just highlighted that just to do a whole pun. Does anyone else think that Rowder is supposed to be another horrible woman with the initials JR? I actually, Kate, thought that the character Rowder in this one was him, based on a JR character, and I call these characters, they're very successful in their villainy because they're lawful evil. And lawful evil means that they will use every power of the law by the book to enact what they feel is a justice that is actually an injustice to everyone else. Nick said, you know what? Probably an amalgamation of both of these evil women. There you go. Cheyenne says, oh yes, very Umbridge coded. There it is. T-Bone says, hey Maude, hey buddy, how are you? The stream category is on lockdown protocol. Good stuff. Let me change that quickly because you'll be sorely disappointed. Change that quickly. Oh, shush Maude. Also, little fun fact here. I had COVID a couple of weeks ago and it is lingering like a mofo. And I woke up with a fever this morning. And I'm wondering, I don't know if it's stress, I don't know what else it is, or maybe it is also pneumonia. So that's all fun. Hold on, I don't even know that. I don't need this anymore because you guys are going to be talking through the... Can you guys chat again loudly for me?
Hello.
Absolutely
Hello.
not.
Hey, stream, does that sound
Hello.
okay? Stream, are they sounding... Sounds the same. Sounds the same. Fantastic. Ropana said I had COVID at the beginning of October. The cough remains. The cough remains. Ro, that's exactly what I've got. The cough is just lingering, and a friend of mine had that as well, and she's now had whooping cough and pneumonia. So that's happening. Fun times. What do we think of this book so far? Usually when we do part one, where it's like a little bit of a temperature check, how we're feeling, what are we thinking, are we enjoying it, are we not enjoying it? And then once we've read the book, we'll rate it out of 5. Who wants to go first with how we're feeling about this book so far? Colleen, you are loving it. You're up. Tell me about it.
Well, for one thing, the little speech that Sal gives as they're preparing for the visit was like perfect for how I'm feeling right now. It was something about we're going to make it. We've got each other, and no matter what happens, we're going to make it. And I just thought that was so perfect. Plus, I also, this is not as pertinent, I suppose, but some of the representation, the way he uses the representation with the magical children, reminded me of how X-Men 97 used representation.
Talk me through that, because that's a really interesting point, because I love X-Men 97.
Well, how the different characters in the X-Men 97 are fighting against the prejudice.
Yeah.
And having to, they're surrogates for, I think originally the X-Men were surrogates for civil rights, people of color, but now rewatching it, I can really see the LGBTQ community as being represented in the X-Men 97. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's so funny every time people who love comic books and superheroes and all that kind of stuff goes, oh, I love reading books, and I understand it's for escapism. I love escapism. That's so much fun. But to say there's no politics in these things, you are tragically misinformed. That is not the case at all. Swap out one for the other, and it's telling the same story. So I think that's interesting. But you're loving it. Avery, you were saying that this week needed this book. How are you finding this book? Oh, I can't hear.
I've teared.
Oh, and it just worked again. You're good. Try it from the top.
Okay. I'm loving it. It's been. I've teared up like 4 times because it's just so sweet, and like it's like comforting, and with everything, because not just generally everything, but also it's just been an absolutely crazy like month and a half for me. So having something lighter and just warm to read is just really nice.
Yay. Good pick for November. Thank you, TJ. We really appreciate this. People are starting to weigh in on their favorite characters, and we're going to get into that next, sort of the evolution of some of these characters, who's getting good airtime, who we are seeing evolve a lot more, who's kind of like befriending others in really sweet ways. Toaster Poster says 5 out of 5, book good. Lindsay says it's perfect. I absolutely love it so far. I had to force myself to stop. We are loving that. Ro Panda says the message of this book is super important right now. You're all magical. Yay. Who else wants to? Oh, Vaidin, you said 5 out of 5. Coming back to this world, I'm in love with the series. So far, it's 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm loving the book. It's just like the first one, and it's great to see how the kids have matured over time now, how they've improved only a year of him being there a Flay. And it's just beautiful to see. And also great to see like some of the conflicts are going on. Like I like that there's conflict even within the house and how they resolve it. Because it's even not just the kids are mature, but also the adults. They accept their mistakes.
Yeah.
They don't blame someone else for their issues. They deal with them in an intelligent way and reasonable way. And they're just, it's wholesome.
It is. It's wholesome AF. I love it. Nick, you're loving this one as well. how they interact with the kids, how the adults are interacting with the kids too. What are you giving this one out of, not necessarily out of 5, but like how are you rating this one? Is it like is book good?
Yeah, book very good. House in the Cerulean Sea is like one of my favorite books. So I was so hyped for this one, and it hasn't disappointed so far.
Yay!
It's just so happy, and like the kids are just hilarious and just heartwarming, which has been much needed right now. So it's been great.
Yeah, honestly, like go us for choosing this book this
it's
week.
perfect.
I will actually say that I have pre 6th of November understanding of what I thought about this book, and then post 6th of November, and like how drastically this book has changed for me, because before I was critiquing, and then afterwards I was relishing. And it's wild that change has happened. I will say, who is listening to the book? Show of hands and in the chat, who's listening? So about five of us are listening. I managed to score an advanced copy where on Libby you get it for just 7 days. And I was like, let's go. It's a little skip the line. Like here, you can have it just only for 7 days instead of 21 days, so we can kind of like speed through the process because so many people want this book. And I had decided I was going to listen to the first half while reading it on my Kindle. And then the second half, because I only have it for 7 days, I'm going to read it. Now, House in the Cerulean Sea, I read it for the first time. This is my copy of the book. And then I listened to it the second time preparing for my interview with TJ Klune. And they felt a little bit enough like different books, because I feel like the narrator has a very particular style of narration for this series specifically, does an incredible job differentiating all the characters. I think one person clearly doing 15 different characters is so well done. It just feels a little bit like Sesame Street listening to it. And I think that hurt the book before the November 6th for me a little bit, because it was like, because there is so many lessons in this, and because every single interaction is a learning moment, and I guess there's something about every interaction. There's no accidents. Saul, where'd you go? She got a new blanket. And when it's being read like you're almost talking to children, it felt a little bit like a children's book to me. And what I'm hearing in the comments is like, Lisa, you were saying who was it? Was it Nick saying, here it is right here, Nick. Yes, I love how Arthur and Linus talk to the children like they're adults, because they can understand that these are hard topics. Listening to the book, they're not really talking to them like they're adults. They're definitely talking to them like they're children. And it can come across a little pandery, a little Sesame Street. What did we learn today, kids? It does have like a little bit of that vibe to it, which is hurting it for me a little bit. And I'm going to read the second half and see how much that changes. Yes, Aaron.
I just put in the comment, I kind of compare it between Sesame Street, but also Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Just the way that Arthur talks to the kids. He's like talking to them, not talking down to them, just like Mr. Rogers did a lot. Like he's very encouraging of them trying to find their own individuality while also trying to like guide them through some hard topics that they might not fully understand just yet. So that's the kind of vibe I got.
Nick says, I'm so glad I'm not listening. I get enough Sesame Street. It is my daughter's favorite show. Well, let's just say that this show is brought to you by the number 4 and the letter B. So we won't try and do that around here. But what I do want to say is just, I can definitely get affected or swayed or influenced by a narrator, whatever their choice is. Like that can completely influence something for you. I love how he voices Lucy. Sal is very different. I think he does a great job with Chauncey. But I think the sing-songy nature of it comes across a little infantile to me from time to time. So I'm going to rectify that because that's a Maude problem, nothing else. The accent changed when you did that. Yeah, because Sesame's made it's made in America. Everyone's like, how do Australian actors and British actors keep doing such authentic like American accents? We grew up on Sesame Street. They had to like unlearn the letter Z in Australian schools. We call it Z, but every morning the letter Z. No, it's Z. Like they said it was Z. Everyone else is like, yeah, we grew up on Sesame Street as well. Aaron, you got more thoughts?
Basically, Sesame Street has been used as a good primer for people wanting to learn English, just in general. Just because it's like it's already teaching kids who are still like learning the language, so it's like it's a perfect precursor for that.
You know what's happening now, though, which I love? Kids are developing Australian accents because of Bluey.
Fair enough.
KP Dubs, I would like to sing your comment if that's okay, because I believe that's how it's supposed to be delivered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's still one of the best things Sesame Street's ever done. That and the pig song where they have a new way to walk. Oh my gosh, obsessed with it. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I got a new way to walk. Come on, the 3 pigs. They
I do.
Yay!
The Oinker Sisters.
Yeah, they were like 80s rock stars with like the different colored curly hair and the little like Madonna outfits. Oh my gosh, someone find it and put it in show chat.
The Oinker Sisters.
No, I look in show chat and KP Dubs is posting sport. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's not what I wanted to see at all.
I'm posting it.
Valencia says, I still do the 1 through 12 count randomly just to mess with the wifey. How is that messing? It's so good. That's such a great trait. They're a 10, but they sing 1 through 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 15.
I randomly sing Spider Pig to myself all the freaking time.
That's a great question. What is it? I mean, I guess my song will change, but there will always be a song that's like my song of the week or my song of the 2 weeks, or just like a random phrase. Apparently that's like an ADHD / possibly an autistic thing to do where you lock on to a phrase and it just lives in your head and spurts out whenever it wants. That's fun. That's cool. I'm all about that one. Darian, you got a hand up?
Yes.
You get,
Oh no.
this hand, it's your resting pose and it's like this. And I think this is the 3rd time I've fallen for it. That's keeping me on my toes. I like it.
I was searching for the Sesame Street videos.
Oh, if you find them, I'm looking at
Yeah, it's in the show chat.
You got it? That's them.
Yeah.
A New Way to Walk.
Yeah.
So good. I implore everyone. Such a banger. The Eye to Eye from Goofy Movie. Okay, well, I sing the Parappa the Rapper song randomly. I don't know that one. Can you sing that one for me, Kate? What's that? How's that one go?
Crack, crack, crack the egg into the bowl.
That's fun. I like that. Hell yeah. We're all better people now. What other wholesome questions can we get into? Punch, kick, block. What's that one, Darren? So that Parappa the Rapper as well? Yeah.
Yeah, different song, I guess. But yeah,
Like
it's like the first level of the game, so it's pretty much all as far
I was
as I
gonna
got.
say that was a weird game.
Was that on PlayStation? Because I was a Nintendo girl.
Yeah,
I think it was an OG
it was-
Xbox game too.
it was it was on PlayStation 1, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
It was basically
It was-
Guitar Hero before Guitar Hero with those.
Yeah, it was
rhythm
like one of
games.
the first rhythm games.
Rhythm games,
Yeah. I think it's a PlayStation exclusive game because it showed up in that PlayStation version of Smash Brothers, which was like all
Yeah, probably
the
got-
exclusive characters there.
I probably got ported to Xbox, but it was PlayStation originally.
Yeah. All right. Good to know. Who else wants to give me their heartfelt confessions and views on the first half of this book?
Looked good for me.
Is the book's good?
Looks good.
Book's good.
I'm enjoying the new interaction with David and Lucy, like eventually figuring things like try to outmonster each other kind of thing.
That is a fun new element for this one. I agree. Colleen's talking about favorite moments so far, and it's Lucy breaking eggs into the bowl and then accidentally reversing gravity when measuring the butter. I do want to ask maybe later, but when we're talking about all of these kids individually, Lucy, do we have a measure on Lucy's power? what Lucy can do, or is it just anything?
It seems like anything.
It's just a bit of
Seems
anything.
like anything.
Lucy can do. There's no
He
measure of power.
He created a tsunami.
Yeah, can literally dim the sun. Because I don't feel like we're putting enough emphasis on what he could do, but more than what he is. But if we're not defining what he is, I'm more interested in what he can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the book treats his powers as like, a joke, using it as a joke purposes. Like, he threatens people all the time, but it's always like in a joking, like dark humor fashion.
Yeah.
But the people outside of the island who don't know Lucy and think he's a monster, like essentially think of it as like that, the potential, like that he can destroy anything, essentially, theoretically.
But like, I feel like Arthur's just trying to undo a reputation. I do think what's really fascinating a lot of the time when you look at children who are magically gifted, especially the ones that have the most power, are the biggest threat, because the person harnessing that power, it's their choice how they want to use it. And I think we're getting into that, but not in a way that I think has a lot more gravity, pun intended, for Colleen with her moment in the kitchen behind this situation. It would be kind of cool where if he had, like, he would have nightmares, but Lucy wouldn't have tantrums. And one thing that I'm wondering, is it an issue in this book or not? The negative emotions that children learn and express when they're young. I was a shit. I was a little shit. And like every kid can be a little shit, right? Like if you don't hear yes when you want, if you don't get the chocolate that you want, if you're told no, or if you're told like all of these things, like I got sent to my room on my own birthday because my brother won pass the parcel. You know what I mean? It's just like we as kids have such big emotions. And I feel like they're doing a good job in this book by talking about big thoughts. And it's like, well, why is this the case? And they have really good dialogue about the why. But as a kid, you don't understand thinking through your emotions. You just have raw feeling. And you figure out afterwards what all that's about and the consequence of your feelings and what you choose to do with them. That's the big lesson of our childhood that I don't know if we're exploring in this. So I actually have a question for the parents in the chat. And I know we've got a couple here. As a parent who has raised, Colleen, you've done this numerous times, who has raised a child, what is this book missing that is a reality that you had? Or do you think it's doing a really good job?
I think it's an ideal. I think I know raising my boys, but then they'd spent the first part of their life in an abusive environment, and things were really stressful. But a lot of times I found, and even more when I started teaching middle school, you can explain why to kids, but sometimes they'll use it as a stalling tactic and want to bargain that way. With my middle schoolers, I finally ended up having to say, because I said so.
Yes.
And I never wanted to do that. I mean,
well, that reestablishes authority, where it's like, I've said something, you're trying to get around it by continuing a dialogue you're not even interested in. I need to exert authority in this moment because I'm the adult and what I say goes. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think that this book is the antithesis of because I said so. It's allow me to explain why. Let's talk about this a lot. I remember as a kid, my mum wanting to explain things and I'd kind of get it, but I wouldn't want to sit there because there was just like icky feelings, or it's like, oh my God, this is a lesson. Oh my God, I'm in trouble and I don't want to know about this. Fine, great. Get through it. But I feel like there's so much patience in this book. Sorry, Colleen, you've got more thoughts?
I see my granddaughter teaching more or parenting more like Linus and Arthur are doing. They work really hard to redirect their children instead of, not punishing them. They try and encourage them, but they try and, kind of steer them. I mean, to the point that when they were here visiting me, her husband was literally at one point following their 2-year-old around going, make better choices. you know,
Yeah.
which was hilarious, but a little extreme, you know.
Yeah, I guess my question is, at what point should we allow kids to be kids? Or should everything be a lesson? Should everything kind of like require that depth? Or is that really not what this book is about? And like Nick, you just said it, my daughter's only 1, so I can't really comment on this, but I'm definitely taking notes. Arthur and Linus are raising conscious and compassionate kids, and that is my ultimate goal as a parent. I want to raise my kids to be good people. I think that is absolutely a goal of most parents, where it's like I want to have a child I'm proud of, with good morals, with good manners. But I think this book is showing the level of patience required. And I think, Colleen, what you pointed out is that we have finite measures of patience. I know that my mum has definitely taught me little patience. She had little patience. I have little patience. But this is sort of what it looks like, where you take that time and you create a safe space to talk. I just kind of want to see a little bit more of it going wrong, or not because I want it's too good. I just kind of want a scope of what it's like to be a parent, I suppose. What are you thinking,
At
Kate?
the same time, Maude, like, I'm not a parent, but these kids have come from places where they were not allowed to have outbursts. So even that's something that they would have already learned negatively. So you are not allowed to have, like, look what Sal would talk about, that it's like he'd be like locked in the basement, or Arthur was like locked in the basement. The story he told at the council thing, that these are children who are already taught that experiencing your emotions and having outbursts is bad. So while Arthur and Linus are teaching them, to like things, it's like, we're going to talk about these emotions. It's like that lesson has already been learned. These aren't like normal children, like,
but
there's the also typical kid that has outbursts, right? Like, these are abused children.
Yeah, and there is actually a lot of depth with how trauma affects children as well. And I think for them all to fall into a category of being shy, being more sort of like withdrawn, a lot of the time, another way that children can explore trauma is through outbursts, whether it's violent, whether it's manipulative, whether it's verbal. A lot of kids can really, really struggle with authority, and they rebel in a platitude of different ways. And I think when we're looking at, I kind of wondered, is the magical ability the symbolism of sort of their uniqueness or their trauma? And there's just, this isn't the book for a negative thing to be explored. Because my mind started wandering, and it's like, now that the boys are getting older, it's like a huge thing that would happen in a lot of foster homes, especially when there were like 6 children that weren't heavily monitored, that did come from abusive backgrounds. Like, some of these children saw their parents display violent behavior. There's horrible things that can happen in these houses. I just wondered if it's like, are we not going to sort of like the places that we don't want to acknowledge because this is a feel-good book, and going away from sort of like a reality of what can happen? Or are we using a magical power as the symbolism of trauma? David saw his parents killed. Yeah. So now, is he wanting to be a monster to stop that from happening to other people that he loves? I just want a little bit more connective tissue. And I think for me, a thing that I'm struggling with this book that I didn't have in the first book, this is way more tell and a lot less show. And I'm wondering if anyone is experiencing that as well, or if it's just so necessary and needed and wonderful and wholesome that it doesn't matter. Jeff, I saw you nodding your head, and I said nodding. Are you feeling that?
Yes, it's for me. It's very, very much more tell, don't show. And just to touch on something that was just touched on, the kids' outbursts, like they come from a place where that wasn't okay, but they also weirdly come from a place where the outbursts are dangerous and like can do damage to them and others, and it's viewed in a really weird way, which is why like that part of it kind of turned me off. The biting of the person and turning them into a dog person also. It's like all of that sort of thing is like kids should be allowed to have outbursts, and that should be fine. It shouldn't be characterized as being dangerous and weird, which kind of in both books, I guess, kind of turned me off a little bit. But
Right.
yes, this book is way more tell instead of show.
Yeah. I think, I was raised by a psychologist. I was taught that anger is a healthy emotion. And I feel like a lot of teachers or I got pulled out of religious studies when I was 8 years old because it was run by the volunteers at the church, and they would teach you about, Christianity. And I came home that night and I think, someone got angry, and I was like, I just learnt that anger was a sin. And my mum goes, what did you just say? Yes, I was told today during religious studies that anger is a sin. And my mum was like, right, you are not going back to that. You are not learning from someone about what a sin is when it's a healthy emotion. And I remember kind of like seeing her be really, really passionate about letting me feel an emotion that as a child was getting stamped out of me by someone who was using religion to weaponize sort of like emotions, I guess. Aaron, you've got thoughts.
Basically, the Jedi with the whole "don't feel anger" or something like that because it's going to lead to the dark side. So just suppress.
That's
suppress.
it.
Don't even,
Nothing bad's going to happen if you just
if
don't
they
feel
just,
it.
They just taught them how to, feel their emotions and digest it and process it healthily. They would never go to the dark side because they know how to express their anger in a healthy way.
Yeah,
And they would never have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Because they're letting their own fear get to them. They say suppress.
Yes, a lot of Australian men will also suppress emotions because of this, need for masculinity to be a provider. An emotion or expressing emotion is a woman's job. And so they suppress, and they have the highest suicide rates in the country, where it's like, talk about it. It's actually okay sharing. And I remember like the differentiating factor where I was like, well, why would this woman say that anger is a sin if it's not? And mum was the one who had to explain to me what you can do in anger. So that's what you need to pay attention to. That's what you need to watch. Feeling angry is absolutely fine. But if you throw something at someone because you're angry, that's not good. If you're violent through your anger because you don't know what you're feeling, that's not good. So it's like really breaking that down. So I had a little Arthur and Linus moment with my mum a lot of the time. And it sticks. Like that stuff, like really core foundation of expressing emotions. Oh, it's not just an Aussie men thing. Yes, it can be a man thing. Cheyenne says, I gave it 5 out of 5, and I can agree with what Kate said, and I'll go back to Kate's comment too. This is fun. I like the addition of David, but it did feel good in the moment. Now, what Kate was saying is, I'm loving this book, but honestly, I don't know if it needed to exist. The first book was just fine on its own. Agree or disagree with that statement? I didn't think about it. I was so grateful we got more, but I think I might agree with you, Kate. The first book was so perfect. Like it was just wonderful. So far, I agree too, says Darren. Avery says a lot of neurodivergent kids are also told that their anger is dangerous and bad. Yeah. And it's like, just understand what is it? Why are you angry? And it can take over you in this moment where you're like, I just feel angry. And then it's not until you can kind of calm down and breathe through it that it's like, okay, well, what was it that made you angry? Let's learn about the why behind that. But I feel like we're taking out the part of actually expressing the emotion to immediately skip to the why. And for me, that's the most interesting part because these kids are magically gifted. Create the threat that people are afraid of and then teach that, that's the teaching moment. But I do think it's quite interesting where you've got Lucy who can do these incredibly powerful things. At the moment, he's just empty words. Oh, I'm going to threaten to do this thing. And it's like, well, that's not actually it. But I feel like if he had a tantrum because he couldn't share or didn't want to do something, and that's a really normal thing as a kid, sharing. Holy shit, are you kidding me? someone showing interest in the thing that you want. And it's like, well, I want to have it. I want to have it. That's a really normal thing. If he found out someone was playing his records, they're my records, music's my thing, and he just flipped and like, you know, someone nearby got flayed, that's interesting. I had to use that example. It was the pinnacle moment in Buffy season 4 or 5 when Willow explores her powers and you're like, we're fucked. Like, she's powerful. This is the moment. You need to see what they're capable of doing. And that's the beautiful moment in it, because it's not what you could do. It's what you do. It's what you do. But the to do is like, whew. Cheyenne says, I have family that refuses to believe their child's neurodivergent, and it's terrible and sad to watch. I know exactly what you're talking about. Some people will say, my child is a circle, while trying to squeeze them into a square. That's why it's fluid and a spectrum. It molds around the child. You don't have to force a shape. Osiris says, I was teaching other kids to read in grade 4, but not allowed to have facial expressions. What do you mean by that? But they weren't allowed to have facial expressions. Colleen says, my ex modeled that anger was one of the only emotions that a man can legitimately express. X for a reason, right, Colleen? X for a reason. Vaidin says, look, it's hard to say at this point, and this is about whether the book should have a sequel. It doesn't differentiate itself much from the first one. I think the second part will give us more of a reason. I just feel like the first half of this book is, let's talk about the different lessons that we're going to discuss today. Anyone got a big issue? I want to be a monster, but you said I couldn't and he can. Great, let's spend a chapter talking about this. Lucy can literally turn people's insides outside. Let him have a tantrum. Colleen, you had your hand up.
It's so important to teach kids that their feelings are legitimate, but how to express them in ways that aren't dangerous. I mean, my boys learn things from their dad that at one point my boys went at each other with knives.
Yeah.
And one of my boys kicked a door down to get to the other one.
Yeah. And so, believe it or not, that's not unheard of. Like, that happens. But not in this house. Not in the house, the Cerulean Sea house. But as I said earlier, prior to November 6th, I was really picking this apart. I was kind of like, let these kids be kids. Like, well, let's really explore the beautiful nature of them, what they're capable of, and why they can make good choices knowing what they are capable of. Like, that's what's really cool. This is what the whole thing is about. Let's really get there. After November 6th, I was like, it's totally fine. We can talk about it all day long. Let's just talk about our feelings and why we do this. We don't have to do anything else. So it did become a bit of a hug. Do you think it goes back to page 1 that this is Arthur's story? It's not the kid's story. So this is Arthur showcasing his parenting styles and him trying to be a dad. I'd like to learn more about that, Cheyenne. Because we did get a bit of an origin story for Arthur. And it was horrible.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, you know, maybe that's part of why we're not seeing a lot of the we're not seeing a lot. It's all tell. Like, because maybe this is really just Arthur, you know, still trying to process, and, you know, maybe that's just part of the reason why he's pushing so hard on this tell, because he's so in his head right now. He's so in his head. He's so worried about, you know, keeping these children safe and keeping these children, you know, and allowing them to have a future and going through these trials and all, yada, yada, yada. So maybe he's just too in his head right now that maybe that's why we're seeing the tell. But also, I think it's just part of TJ Klune's way of telling the story, maybe.
True. And I did notice that one of my questions in the document, it said exactly this. How much has the writing style changed since the first in terms of the message and the themes and the format of the book? I think structurally, the first book had a really concise and clear structure that was pushing a story the whole way through Linus's viewpoint. Linus had a really clear objective. He was then presented with something that conflicted his objective. And but here, it actually feels like it's wafting a little bit, because we have a great glimpse of Arthur's past. I would love more flashbacks from Arthur. What happens when he finally escaped? How is he aiding and abetting other unregistered magical creatures? Was he, how numb was he because he was so isolated from everyone else? Were there other ways where he was trying to feel anything? I kind of pictured, if he was marking off on the wall, did he start marking off on himself? Because every single day he was reminded that he was captured and he was a captive. When you have extreme things happen to you, extreme feelings go in the place of that. And it's I think what this one's trying to do, and which again I would love to see more of, breaking a generational trauma. And there was literally a lesson in here. What's generational trauma? I think it's this. Well, actually, it's a little bit more like this. I want to see Arthur literally faced with his trauma, where he's trying to stop coping mechanisms, bad habits, destructive behavior, because he was his identity and his freedom was taken away from him. So what measures is he going to try and take to free other people? We're kind of seeing a very watered down watercolor version of what I think he was entitled to do and to show and to display. I want more depth. This feels very wading in the shallows for me. Aaron.
Yeah, I kind of get the impression that Arthur's actually feeling a lot of desperation right now, at least in this first half of the book, just because he has the government basically on his back. He is trying to get David adopted, but secretly he's trying to do so many things. And then Linus, of course, proposes to him. So that's another added thing to that. So it's joy mixed in with all the other things. So it's he's basically, I feel like he's stretching himself way too thin. He's not allowing, like you were saying, let the kids be kids. Let them just have their moments. Stop trying to wrangle all these things and just let things happen.
And I find that when you do make it very, I never really say this word out loud, but I wanted saccharine, sweet. It's incredibly saccharine to me. And I feel like when you are trying to teach a moment, if you do not have incredibly real examples, and I'm seeing it a little bit across the board, where it's no matter, every single couple we're introduced to is queer. Every single example we have turns out okay. And it's kind of like a projection. And this is why it's so lovely to read now. I love that almost perfection, very little conflict, very little ruffling of feathers, no extreme things happening. It's so nice, it's safe, it's beautiful, and we can explore and show the hope that this can exist. I think for me, I'm missing sort of grounded reality where it's if I meet 5 couples, they're all not going to be queer couples. If I meet 6 children with trauma, they're all not going to be listeners who want to learn the lesson and save the day. I just want to it's almost unfair for people who have struggled and didn't get it right, because this book is showing that it all. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure. Someone can help me.
I have a couple thoughts, Maude.
We'll go Kate, because you don't have your video on, and then Aaron, because I did see you raise your hand. But yes, go Kate.
So I put it in, the first thing I want to say is I put it in the Twitch chat that we had the same sort of issues when we were reading Under the Whispering Door, that there was something missing. And it was we were supposed to believe the main character, and that was evil.
I'm telling you, he's these things, so you believe it.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
No,
but we were missing the part of where he was evil.
Yeah,
and I think part of that comes from might be. How do I want to word this?
I know I'm trying to get it very.
No, I just don't want to sound too insulting.
Oh, to
part of
TJ.
it is no to Gen Z.
Okay.
Because this is a Gen Z type book.
We have one Gen Z in our chat.
They have a lack of critical thinking skills, and the way, because of social media and their age, because they're all young, but they see a lot of things, especially the media they consume, in black and white.
Yeah.
And if there was conflict in here, like there would be complaints about it being like, why does every queer story have to be with conflict?
Yeah.
Because you see it all the time. The people who are like diehard Heartstopper fans hate other queer romances because it's too sexual, it's too dark, it's too X.
I know, I actually do
feel
hear
like
that.
this
Well, when I interviewed TJ about exactly this, he was like, why should every queer story be suffering? Because it's like,
yeah, that's absolutely that Gen Z thing where it's
because it,
like,
it lends
it's
to
the same
it where
reason
it's like
that
gay people
TikTok-
have to suffer because they're gay, because that's what
but it's
every
also
story
the
is
same
saying.
thing
Yeah.
that they won't accept any suffering because, again, that lack of black and white, and why they all as a collective despise the book A Little Life and they see it as queer torture porn.
Yeah. So is it balance, or is it some stories are allowed to kind of like
positivity?
Toxic positivity.
No,
Exactly.
it's because they see themselves in media, and they don't, because like they won't read fiction that has like things that they're against, because then they're like, that means I believe in like murder. That believes I believe in like, you know, all this stuff. So if there was that darkness in here, that vein of the, you know, everything has to be sunshiny, young queer community would be like, I can't read this because it like reflects poorly on me as a human being.
Huh. That's what's right, because obviously I didn't grow up as a Gen Z queer person. So
No,
this is not a perspective that I know much about at all. But it's really interesting.
They
I kind of would.
separate fiction a lot because, like I said, there's lack of critical thinking skills because of just their age, but also social media, that they cannot express gray areas. Like, characters have to be good or evil. They cannot be morally gray. Things have to be black or white. They can't be gray. So you have to have these heartwarming, everything's positivity stories because they can't accept the darkness because it makes them want to look at the darkness in themselves and they don't want to believe it exists.
Got it. So Cheyenne, you said I definitely see this as a queer person. It's a valid criticism. Can I learn more about it from you, if you're open to it?
Yeah, no, I think I have a good viewpoint of it because I am more of that cusper. You know, I'm on that cusp of Gen Z. I'm on that cusp of millennial. So, you know, I do see it a lot in, you know, people that are a little bit younger than me that I interact with, that toxic positivity of everything always has to be okay. Everything has to be a safe space. You're not allowed to express any kind of other opinion without being met with, you know, hatred for that. You know, it really ties into kind of our political, you know, discussion earlier too, of like, you know, you have to be aware of these other opinions in order to be an educated person.
Yes.
And, you know, I feel like maybe, you know, people who are older than me or more on the millennial side of it, you know, are a little bit better at it because they're not that constant online, that constant, you know, positivity aspect of it. So that's where I see it happen.
So what I'm learning from this is that I'm noticing this a lot more because I'm a millennial. Because I do feel like there is a pandering for things to be all good all the time. And I'm like, that's just not how it works. Like, that's not really a reality. But at the same time, I'm in an understanding of this is TJ's story. If he requires and wants his story to be feel good and to not have extreme conflict and to not have the depths, but just to the takeaway to be, here is a really good, thorough understanding on talking to children about feelings, and that's that. I think that's perfectly okay too. Nick says, I think it's okay that these stories don't have huge conflicts. There's room for stories that are just cozy and happy, and that's what it's supposed to be. There are also books like Poppy War, which is just pure chaos and violence. There is a place for both. A lot of hands up as well. Vaidin, you've had your hand up, but Aaron, we're going to go back to you to have a chat.
Yeah, so it kind of ties back to like what Kay was saying, what we were saying earlier, but there was that moment, like, I forget like which chapter was like sort of the end of the set. Linus is basically telling Arthur, let them have their moment to make mistakes and let them basically like let them leave the nest kind of conversation. Like, yo, it's okay to let them make their own mistakes. And then you could be there to help them work out how to fix the mistake so they don't repeat it. Like,
because if you're stopping them before they make the mistake, you actually could be stopping them from doing the right thing because you've just stopped them.
like I remember this interview with Pink, like in her like early career, like talking about like how it all started, and she's basically like asking some producer like, let me have the opportunity to fail, like let
Yeah.
me have that opportunity to make my own mistakes and then learn from it. That's why I think like what Arthur's main problem is, he's being too mother hen helicopter mom.
Yeah,
basically.
these kids are bandaged. Like they are wrapped up like mummies and hoping like in the bubble wrap a little bit, you know? So, and I
Like I
understand.
get that he wants to make us. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I think that this is a really cool thing to explore where it's like, I understand bubble wrapping Lucy. I totally understand that because the mistake that you could give grace for Lucy to make could cause a level 5 hurricane. You know what I mean? Like, so I understand, but I'd love to see that. I'd love to see, you know what, Chauncey, when you make a mistake, you ink on something. Lucy, when you make a mistake, like,
Continent's disappearing.
yeah, you flayed the old man down the road. His
Yeah,
skin.
the moon and sun is gone now.
Well, yeah. So it's like, but I don't think we're permitted to acknowledge the gravity.
I wish that they had talked about that more in Lucy's conversation with Arthur about the word monster.
Yes.
That it's like it is a double standard, but it's because the definition of monster for David is very different than it is for Lucy.
And I actually think that parallel was
monster
should have
for
been explored.
David is Monsters Inc.
Yes.
Monster for Lucy is like Human Centipede. So it's like they're very different.
Yes. And I think that was a really cool area to be like, blanket statements can be harmful. If everyone here is just categorically a monster and you all have the same rules, then that doesn't allow for individuality. And it's like monster for him is different from monster to you. So let's talk about how you're different and you're unique and how your powers can flay Mr. Johnson down the road, the grandpa whose insides are now outside. Like that David's not going to do that. David's going to go rawr and his fangs are going to come out and he's going to create ice cubes. But it's like, I let Lucy know, I don't know, let Lucy know with great power comes great responsibility. But let him make the mistake to kind of be like, oh, that didn't actually feel that good. I've been talking about, setting trees on fire for so long, but now that I did it, Fee's really upset because I hurt her trees. I thought I would really love setting it on fire. In fact, Theodore and I have been outside blowing things up. And it came at a consequence to someone that I care about. Now I know. He doesn't even get to light something on fire. His hands are bubble wrapped, So yeah, that's the and I actually think that we've really put it down to a great observation from Kate. It's generational. I'm a millennial where I got to scrape my knee because I ran. And now I know if I want to run, I could scrape my knee. Avery, I kind of want to turn it to you because you're in Gen Z, aren't you? What is your take on because you love Heartstoppers?
I enjoy Heartstopper, but I also enjoy Interview with the Vampire, which is the exact opposite of Heartstopper.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So for me, like I think that the two extreme, like I think we need all of it. Like there's nothing wrong with having feel-good stories. Like we need those sometimes, like when the world is like this, sometimes you just need to escape and just
I want to be wrapped in bubble
warm
wrap
and
right now.
comfortable.
Yeah.
But having those difficult conversations are still very important. And being uncomfortable is important.
Yeah.
Because that's how we learn. And that's like that's like a huge thing within storytelling. So like obviously, like we were saying, like TJ Klune said he wants his stories to be cozy, so that's what he was going for.
Yeah.
So like he's I guess not touching on some of those more difficult topics because he doesn't want to. But like he could, like I think he still could have included it and it still have been like a comforting story, even though there were some less comfortable things happening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I feel like this is a difference between theory and practical lessons. And the dumbest thing that Dolores Umbridge did, to bring it back to that analogy, was rule out practical learning. And I think we all know that doing is a way to learn so much faster and quicker than sort of like writing or hearing or reading or being told. And I think Arthur's method is theory, no practical. And I think that's what I'm craving as well. Get your hands dirty, not just by making a cake, but like, if you have these powers, let's see what you can do so that we know what's helpful and what to not go near. Like, I also, what was the recent one? Freaking Feyre. We just did it for book 2 of A Court of Mist and Fury. Tamlin did not want her to learn about her newfound powers. He was like, nope, do not want you to get trained. If people find out you even have them, that's a problem. We're just going to hide you away and make sure you never use your powers or learn about your powers because it's all dangerous. That's what Arthur is doing. That's literally what Arthur is doing here. But Tamlin obviously is horrible and Arthur's a great dad. And I think it's a difference between, well, you can, but let's talk about why we won't. And the kids do feel heard, whereas Feyre felt suffocated. And I do think that if one of them wanted to go outside and light a tree on fire, it'd be like, hey, this could be the learning exercise. But we're not getting there. Vaidin, you've had your hand up for ages. Happy birthday. What's your question?
Okay. Basically, just we're talking about the kind of low stakes essentially of the book and how it's very just focuses on the coziness and lack of hard hitting stuff. I was just gonna say if I can tell, they talked earlier about the ethics, like the ontology specifically, and Immanuel Kant. So he talked about them specifically with regard to ethics, and then talking about free will.
Yeah.
So we know that Lucy can theoretically change people's minds with his powers, and we know, and he talks about it in the book. He specifically says, "What if I do this? Well, what will happen then?" And then they talk about how that's obviously not going to be a good thing, and that if you change people's minds this way, you're doing basically irreparable damage, and you're not really changing them.
But how much more powerful would that have been if they're in a conversation and Linus picks up a cookie and gives it to Lucy, and Arthur's like, why are you doing that? We don't do cookies before meals. And Linus is like, he deserves one, and then snaps out of it. Or we realize later that Lucy was manipulating Linus to get what he wanted, and actually having Linus's take on that, being like, I can't recall that time. That's incredibly scary for me. This is what I mean by practical, but they just talked about it. It's like, you can still show, you don't have to violate 50,000 people. You can just do a small diluted version of it and have an immediate impact. I've just had 2 examples where I think that Theodore and Lucy wanting to light trees on fire and then seeing how Fee would be directly hurt by that, and even Zoe coming in with that lesson, being like, hey, what did the tree do to you? Imagine that tree was a person, have that lesson, but let them kind of do it to see. I just think I'm a little bit bogged down with talking, and we've hit that point. I also agree with Cheyenne. I've been so emotionally exhausted and physically to read anything but feel good coziness right now. I had these thoughts a few days ago. I have a very changed perspective now, and when I dive back into this book, I will talk about it with a nice cup of tea all day long. But I do think that this is a very contrasting way that I'm receiving this book this time, because I think that that's notably different, and I think what we could have explored in a very clever and interesting way. KBW says, yep, I got no thoughts on this book other than I love all of them, and that is enough for me. Yeah, totally valid. I completely agree with that as well. Let's talk about some of the other questions that I had for this one. Has the story remained for adults, or does it feel more skewed to kids? I thought it was skewed to kids just because of the narrator and because of this telling, not showing, diluted conflict. But we're all adults reading this. Do you feel like you're getting as much out of it, or has it tonally changed a little bit, this book? Aaron?
I would say it's kind of both, but not at the same time, if that makes sense. Basically, it could be for kids, but it also feels like it's meant for when Steve from Blue's Clues decided to come on to TikTok for the first time, and everybody just collectively went, oh my God, he's back.
We
And
needed
everybody just
this.
felt really good. Like
Yeah.
exactly, like that's what I feel like this is. Like this is Steve from Blue's Clues coming back into our lives again. What it
Cheyenne
feels
making
like.
a really great point as well. Sometimes we need to read the things that we didn't get. And like Linus and Arthur's parenting style is very gentle, is very safe. And I think for some people to read that this could be out there, like this book provides a fuck ton of hope. And I have a feeling we all need to up our dosage of hope at the moment. So that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Nick, I agree. They'd be like, this woke bull. Oh my God. The arguments that they have. Anyway, next question. We did kind of touch upon this a little bit. The talk through examples of showing versus telling in this book when it comes to lessons and messages. I feel like we really handled that. Being a monster, we touched upon a little bit with David versus Lucy. Kate and I kind of argued the fact that they're just different monsters and there's different ways to handle that. And there's what you're capable of, and what your intention is. But I just wish we could see it a little bit more. But the conversation was quite interesting. Are the children getting equal airtime in the book? Who are you liking more or less? Who are you getting to know more or less? And I love hearing about moments that you liked the most as well. So like endearing and beautiful little moments that explore a character further. Kate says, Chauncey is my number one in the first book, number one in this book. KPW says, wait, I thought rebellions were built on hope. Watch this space. Everything's built on hope. Susie says, how many chapters are in this book? There are 20, 18, 19, 20. It's not too long. Colleen says, how long before this book is banned? Shit. It actually could be. Holy hell. Nick says, yes, I would die for Chauncey, but Saul easily became my second favorite. Nick, talk to me about the evolution of Saul. Saul was very, very shy in the first book, and then we kind of saw a glimpse into his soul when he read his poetry for the first time. And you're like, oh, Saul is an observer. What do you think's happening with Saul in this book?
I just love his growth from the first book. How he was, like you said, so shy, and now he's basically become like a mini Arthur. He's like wise and like supporting the other children and like being there for them and supporting them, and so it's just it's really good to see that growth. And I could picture him like if they do like 10 years in the future, he could like have his own orphanage and be doing the same thing that Arthur's doing. So.
I feel like because he is the oldest and he's recognizing that he's quite like considerably older than some of these. Lucy's 7, he's 15, I think he's starting to realize that being the oldest, he needs to step up and be more of a leader. And he's getting more confident to lead in some cases. Again, what I would love to see, David's huge. David's big, right? Sal's big. And I wouldn't, maybe there's like an alpha issue. Some guys would be like, well, you're the biggest and the tallest here, so if I can take care of you, then I'll be in charge. If David sort of like, or even accidentally, because he's so big, he doesn't know his own sort of strength or weight, accidentally kind of like bumps or hits Sal, and Sal turns into a dog, which he hasn't done in ages. And maybe the shame of feeling like he's still out of control about that particular part of him. This is what I want. It's right there. We feel like we need permission to get that. KB Dub says, as an oldest of 4 siblings and 4 years older than the next one, I relate to that part of Sal. Well, in my household, I was the youngest of 3, and yet I was pulled aside when Mum and Dad went out and said, Maude, you're the youngest. You're in charge because you're the most responsible. Here are the phone numbers. Make sure their boys get to bed on time. And I'm like, okay. So I had the opposite completely.
The difference between boys and girls.
That's what happens. And I now have ingrained responsibility from that, which I only just discovered in therapy like this year. And that is when I was young and, reckless and partying and drinking, as soon as one thing happened, I'd sober up and make sure that they were okay. I was always the mum of the group. I would always make sure that everyone's fine. I was always like, my core personality trait was responsible. Fucking exhausting. Didn't ask for it. Really good at it. Here we are. Avery says I'm the oldest of 4 too. I'm sorry. Did you step up and lead? Yeah. Catch, you're the oldest of 4 as well? Oh my goodness. All right.
It just means I got blamed for everything.
My brother, who's on the spectrum and everything has to be logical and make sense, and he raises some really good arguments. We all had the same bedtime, and I was 3 years younger, and he's like, no, when I was her age, the bedtime was less, so she should be going to bed at this time because that's how old I was. And I'm like, that makes absolute sense. It's not going to happen. And he just thought I got away with so much because I was the youngest, and I did, and I still do. Aaron.
I'm the youngest of 2, and while I did make mistakes, I basically learned from my brother who made his own mistakes. It's like, okay, don't do that.
Yeah, because
like,
you saw the consequence and you got to choose.
Well, one nice story of he stole my mom's car in the middle of the night for a joyride, and he was 15 without a license. And the only reason he got caught was because my mom decided, spur of the moment, like, oh wait, it's garbage day tomorrow. Did I take out the garbage or something like that? So she looks out her window and doesn't see her car in the driveway where she parked it, and then starts putting 2 together, and just waits in the driveway until he comes home. And then he goes in the garage, and then basically locks himself inside. He's like, oh, okay, if I hide in here, I won't face consequences. Rightfully pissed.
Yeah, that's the thing. We all know the one time a sibling stepped out and you're like, right, not worth it. Don't even do it. Don't get close to it.
Of course, because he also makes the bigger, like louder mistakes, I could make quieter mistakes and then just basically shift the blame to him.
Yes, and learn from those mistakes.
I was the good kid.
Vaidin and I have this in common where the loophole is. My favorite loophole that I ever had was my parents were full-time workers. So during the school holidays, Mum would leave a list of chores to do. And, by the time they got home, those chores would be done. And I woke up earlier. My brother slept in late. I learned how to write like my mum. So I would get up, I would look at the list of chores, scrunch it up, rewrite them, and distribute them just to my brothers. And my brother would look at the list and he'd be like, oh, all right, I wouldn't have to do any chores ever. See, work smarter, not harder. That's all I had to do is just learn. I learned her signature as well. And Mum told me a story which I didn't even know, but she told me this one recently. Well, actually, I don't know if I'm making it up and someone else said this, but I'm applying it to me because that's how our brains work. She got a phone call from a letter that she signed from the teacher saying, this looks like it's forged. And that's because that was Mum's real one. And I'd been forging every other one. And so the fake was the real. And that's when she discovered that, like, oh my gosh, I had lots of letters excusing me from swimming classes through any kind of like physical education. And I had a lot of orthodontist appointment where I could leave halfway through the day, but that letter was signed and stamped. So I did nothing wrong. I didn't break any rules. I was just a little fraudulent, but whatever. One of my grandkids did that, says Colleen. Just work smarter, not harder.
Are you entirely sure you want to admit to forging signatures on official documents on the internet when you're trying to get your visa renewed?
Oh, shit. Those signatures are all legit.
Okay, she was a kid.
I was a minor. You know what they say, minor age, minor issue. Like,
Maude, I'm sorry. You're the youngest of 4. You have 3 older brothers. Is that right?
2 older brothers, youngest of 3.
2 older brothers.
Shut up, Adam. Minor.
I was just curious because my sister is the youngest of 4, and she's the only girl.
And how many
And I was
letters
just
did
curious, what's the age gap between you and your oldest brother?
Oh no, Mum was 9 months on, 9 months off.
Really?
Yeah, she had 3 under 3.
There's 11 years between my sister and I.
Whoa! So you had to raise your youngest as well. Yeah.
Not quite, but I did do a lot of babysitting.
Yeah.
Oh, I can relate to that. 12 years. Yep.
But my brothers and I are all really close. We're all within like 3 years of each other.
Oh, so she would have felt isolated from that as well, where it's you and her, like them. And
Hmm.
yeah, I felt that even though my brothers were like 18 months older and then 3 years older. Like it was them and me until
Actually,
the Nintendo
just have
64.
my cousin just had a new baby girl. She's maybe like about 6, 7 months old now, and has 2 older boys that are one's already in high school, the other one's like 8th grade starting high school. So it's like big age gap. But thankfully they're like so far they're like the 2 older brothers that absolutely adore their
Oh,
little
that's
sister, are like able to help. So it's like
Oh, that's really
she
good.
she is going to be spoiled rotten, basically, that
Aw,
little girl.
that's
Name's
nice.
Ivy.
Oh yeah, Darren, I kind of had that same thing as well. My brothers and I are each 3 years apart, and we didn't really become friends until we all left home. Why is that? Because it's like this ingrained sibling bias.
I think there's a little bit like 6 years for me and my oldest is he's 13, 14, and I'm a little tiny kid and trying to hang. You're a little bit annoying, and you just sort of have different interests. And then eventually it's like, oh, I go away to college, and now we're kind of all adults, and the things that we like, that we share, we start to do and hang out more. And so, yeah, definitely much closer with my brother since we all have left. Sure.
Yeah, and you have to find the thing that you want to bond over. Like for one of my brothers, it's music, and the other one, it's video games. So yeah, you find the thing that you didn't really connect over, I guess, when you're younger. Nick says, yeah, me and my 3 siblings are 3 or 4 years apart each. So my oldest brother is 11 years older than me. That is a big gap when you think about it. Cheyenne says 12-year age gap, same parents. But I was definitely the parentified child. Kate says boys usually don't get parentified when they are the older child. Girls, though, definitely. Can you explain that to me a little bit? Because I have not been in that position either. Or maybe I have, and I don't know.
That when you are the oldest child and a girl, you are mommy 2.0.
Shit, I just admitted that I was, but I was the youngest. Yeah, but boys will be boys. They don't have to follow the rules. They can just run amok. But you need to learn how to cook because that's what you'll be doing when you're older. I didn't learn to cook until the pandemic. I had to get that bored to want to try. Lisa says, I had to share a bedroom growing up with my sister, and now that I now live with, we hated each other until she moved out. Yeah, right. I mean, sometimes you just need a little space. That's why I moved countries. I recommend it to anyone that needs a little space.
You just move countries, you move continents.
Yeah,
Go to another planet while you're at it.
I was like, see you later. I was gone. All right, some more questions. This one I think is quite interesting, but we are still not getting into the nitty gritty of it. Let's really call a spade a spade. These kids be going through puberty. And they mask it in a way, or they kind of, this is like a great way. It's like, we're talking about puberty, but let's use their powers to explore the puberty side. Their bodies are changing. But when your body is a wyvern, you blow fire. Like you can bleh. And if you're Chauncey, you can ink. Now they never really talk about it like that, but I'm like straight away I pulled out my phone. I was like, boys are going through puberty and we are not really talking about this. It is quite interesting. It's barely mentioned. I again think this would be a really cool way for Theodore to be like, he kind of did. He goes, it's like an offhanded comment. I sneezed, the chair's done, we deal with it. We are on a forest island. Dude learned how to blow, what do you call it? Breathe fire. I should probably stop using the other word. Breathe fire. And then you've got Lucy who wants things to be lit on fire. Like, why has this island, and he's the phoenix who knows about fire and can literally snuff it out. Let's just say he walks out, Fee's screaming because all the trees are like burning, and he can go out there and be like, boom. And he's the only one that could do that. Anyway.
I actually put the quote in there when it's like first discovered in the show chat. But before he could finish, Lucy yelled in unfettered joy, "You can breathe fire? Holy crap, Theodore, let's burn everything."
Yeah. And I just think that Lucy's saying he's going to do all these things and never actually doing it. He's this empty threat where he in actuality when he does little tiny things and it's like he gets a little bit mad and the sun dims. Like, let's let him act out one of the threats. Darian, is this your Siri, your Alexa? So chatty. Cheyenne, we needed more chaos. Well, I mean, it's Lucifer. It's yeah. That's the point, I think.
You think it's because he's just very self-aware of what he can do? Because he's like
7.
already said, you're like, well, but he did have like the full conversation. It's like, I think I could actually control people's minds. But he's like,
Exactly.
asking,
He
like,
had the conversation. When you are a kid,
Right.
you are curious. I ate an ant just to know what it tasted like. That's the
But
shit
he's
you
asking
do when
also,
you're a
like-
kid.
He's also like wanting to like know, like, discuss like what could be the potential consequences, because it's like, I think it could be good, but what do you think? He's like asking Arthur because he respects his opinion. But yeah, it's like, let him run amok a little bit.
Let him run amok a little.
Let him learn his lessons.
I
I
think
think he's
that,
like fully
like-
aware of his powers, but it's like he's not allowed to express them to know fully the consequences. You can't know your consequences unless you do it.
Exactly. And like, the biggest lesson that frickin' Harry learnt was when it was practical. He had to write it, but it got etched into his skin. Like, that's what, let him. I do think it would have been really, really cool if like Lucy did kind of tweak an adult's thought and having an adult be really freaked out by a violation because they are unaware that they were like being controlled in that moment. Like, that's a really interesting thing to happen where it's not catastrophic and it doesn't cause sort of like, we're not addressing deep, dark things. It's a really natural curiosity, but I think the consequence is quite important. It's important. The consequence is important. KB Dub says, I was that kid who had crazy ideas, said them out loud, and then walked away as the other kids gave form to my chaos and then got in trouble. I respect the hell out of that. Work smart, not hard. And that is exactly how you do it. William says, how can you make a Kleenex dance? Put a little boogie in it. Cool. Timing of that was really good. There it is. Yeah. I think the mind control is going to be a Chekhov's gun. Well, we'll see. So far, nothing. Did not many people draw the parallels between Theodore being able to breathe fire and Chauncey inking? You were boys. Every guy in here, you were a boy once.
Chauncey literally called it nocturnal missions. Linus was like, we need to talk about using that too.
Again,
Yeah.
it's never really addressed. Oh, sorry, I didn't know it would be permanent. Mark, my bad. And you're like, yeah, Chauncey, you just can't ink on things, especially socks. Like, I try to put that in the wash, but it's just never going to get the shape, the color back. Game Wizard said, no, I didn't piece that together. It makes sense now that it's being discussed. Toaster Poster also didn't make the connection. I'm like, you've got how many boys in a house together growing up? Are you? Oh my God. Mick said just Chauncey because they kept calling it nocturnal emissions. Okay, next question. The antagonist of this book is the organization trying to oppress magical people, especially kids. Is there a clear plot to overthrow this, or is it just so far trying to survive the next inspection? Is this enough of an antagonist for it to feel like a plot is developing or furthering? God, I sound so harsh. I'm enjoying the book. It's a 3.5 at the moment for me, though.
Actually, that's one of the issues is Arthur is kind of, walking on eggshells here because he's already been accused of preparing these children to be an army.
Yeah.
For him. And so they're preparing in a real low-key way, more of a defense than an offense.
Yeah. I actually liked there was a slight terse moment where compared to the rest of the book, I guess it had more of a blip. I would like to see a lot more of Arthur and Linus having very contradictory raising children styles, parenting styles. I think by Arthur coming from a place of experience, having felt trauma, having lived through it as a person of magical abilities, and Linus being a normal person and, a non-magical person, I would love to see the disparagement that they have there. And Arthur he snapped a little bit going, you don't know. And Linus immediately apologizes. And it's like, okay, well, there was something. But I think opposing parenting styles coming from incredibly different backgrounds, again, is quite normal and a conversation with a practical element. So Linus setting a rule or a standard about something that Arthur goes, I don't actually agree with that. Or Arthur saying to Linus, you actually sound a little tone deaf about this topic and you're a bit ignorant because you haven't lived this. And that's not actually what it's like for these children. And I think I would know. And Linus feeling a bit inferior about this. I actually think that Linus does not yet see himself as a parent. I kind of disagree with that. In the first book, he was way out of his element, but that was a very seamless transition into this book where it's just smooth sailing. Avery says the book was dedicated to the trans community, which I think is important for the way the government is portrayed in this book. Tell me more about that. Is it the subtle way that they're not outright evil, but they're just following a protocol, but then projecting their bias into the law to weaponize?
Yeah, so I think this book takes place in like a pseudo-England, United Kingdom. And they're having a lot of issues over there with like trans rights and stuff. Like it's been like their number one topic in all of their recent elections and everything. And their government keeps using that and saying, well, like basically the things that J.K. Rowling have been saying have been reflected in their politicians as well.
Right.
So these are points, like some of the points that like the government was making, like in the hearing scene, for example, when they were like, well, what are you going to do to like contain this issue, and how are you going to keep them from invading our spaces, that kind of thing. Like that, those are actual conversations that are happening about the trans community in the UK in their government right now.
Wow. Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean, when I spoke to Mum about this recent news, her first thing was, oh my God, the poor trans kids. She goes, to be a trans and a gay kid in America in the next 4 years is just going to be horrible. And that was the first thought that she had. So I do think that this is really important. And I did like how Arthur said, no, language is actually important here. And they're like, no, it's not. And he goes, yeah, no, but it is. It is really important how you address this. And I think setting that standard of like, when you say X, it can come across as Y. When you say, you are in property, like you are the property of these children, or like, they are your property or something like that. There was something like that. And he's like, don't say that. And I wonder, because it's like, it's these nuances that cause the biggest divide, because this is where it's like, you're so sensitive. Are you offended about this? And I know this because I've been, living on the internet for a couple of days, doom scrolling. And this is the language that I'm hearing. Are you so sensitive? Did you get offended? Your woke views are just bullshit, essentially. And the other side sort of being like, well, I'm trying to have a coherent conversation with you. Like, I'd really like to learn about it, but you keep contradicting yourself. And anytime you're met with something that you don't like, it's name calling, or it's like, did you get offended by what I say? It's like, no, I'm actually just trying to understand you, but you can't make a coherent argument. And it's really, really difficult to have a human connection between people more than ever. And it's, I can't explain it, and I don't have a solution for it. And I think, honestly, it's becoming more and more the divided states of America. Because it is gotten to the point where an ideology has consumed a viewpoint. And that ideology at a base level cannot be argued, agreed, or let's disagree about this, but stay on the same page. The book is ripped in half. And you're either on that side or that side of the book. Like that's more and more what I'm experiencing and what I've had. So it's like, to agree with like a policy doesn't exist anymore. To agree or disagree, full stop, doesn't really exist anymore. It's you are for or you are against. And that's kind of it. But, and I'm a part of this as well, because I've actually just recently had an interaction with a friend who said I didn't vote for either. I didn't like either candidate. And I said, when you say that, you're against women. When you say that, you're against women. And that was really hard because I don't want to be so black and white, but I feel like that's where we're at right now. And this was a girlfriend of mine, who said I don't really like the policies of either. And you know, rightfully said this is the one policy that I don't agree with. I'm like, that's a really valid policy, but what about all this other shit that we're not at liberty to ignore anymore? I don't really know where I'm going with my rant, only to say that when we are picking and choosing sides, I do feel that one side has a lot more compassion. I think one side fundamentally chooses to care about other people, and the other side, in a way, chooses themselves more than anything, or their immediate family, their traditional family only. And maybe I'm wrong, and I'm absolutely open to have conversations with these people without having insults rammed down my throat. But I believe that there is a side that chooses compassion and helping others, and another side chooses to better themselves. Who's to say if someone who chooses to better themselves, that's not warranted or granted in any particular way? I'm not that person. Ugh. Shan says individualist versus community-based is what it feels like, unfortunately. Yep, we're on the same page with that one. Oh, so you're on my side of the book. Avery, your hand's been up.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with everything. And like with the whole like community versus individual thing, and yeah, I was just agreeing.
Yeah. I mean, I was in Tennessee over the weekend for a friend's wedding, and my Uber driver, you know, the tensions were high. And you know, he was an older man who was very well spoken, definitely white, and we were talking about it. And he kind of outright said, "Look, I don't like Trump." And I'm like, "Great, we can agree on this." And he's like, "I don't like Trump. I do not think he's a good man. I don't think he should be president. But I really don't like her. Let me tell you why." And I'm like, okay, I will say as a woman, we're likely to have different perspectives on this. And I'm not going to choose Trump because, well, I want the right over my own body. And he said, well, technically the fetus is the property of the state. And I said, I'm going to heavily disagree with you on that one. But can I just appreciate how vastly different our views are on this, and yet we're having a civil conversation. Did not tip him at all, but gave him 5 stars. That's my piece with it. Was really rattled because that was the Uber on the way to the wedding, and I kind of sat there and I was just shaking. I was like, what the hell? And I wish I'd said, I'm so grateful that you'll never be able to bear children. That is the biggest blessing that we have walking away from this conversation, that you will not have kids. But books like this, the problem is the people who enjoyed it don't need to learn the lesson. That's the hardest part. And I will say this from the bottom of my heart, and this is for lefties. This is for the big lefties. I can't stress this enough. The biggest advocate we can have, the most powerful person we can have in our life, is someone willing to listen. So if you get mad that someone doesn't know, and they're like, what do you mean we can't use this word anymore? Why can't I do this? And they want to know. I know it sucks, especially for minorities and even like Black people having to teach about racism that they're facing every single day, and it's not their job. And I understand the frustration and the exhaustion behind it. if we can get one person who's willing to listen, learn that lesson, hopefully that person can then continue to pass on a lesson to people that they meet that they want to learn. But I think a person wanting to learn is the most important person we can have, especially in today's age, because I am really struggling to find people that are willing and open and wanting to learn. We are doubling down. We are tripling down. We are not open to having conversations. And an attempt of a conversation that I've tried to have over the last couple of days ends in horrible, hateful speech. So I don't feel like it, but maybe we should try to all be kinder. I don't want to, but I will try to also have kindness, because I think that kindness and compassion is what separates us and what will hopefully be the cure of everything too. Cool. Aaron.
Actually, just the point you're kind of making there is what was happening in the book too with Arthur. Like, he's like willing to like teach the people at the hearing, like, okay, I have something I need to say, and I would like you to listen and hopefully learn from this to help make better laws to help everybody, including people in my community. And maybe like one or two were kind of listening, some were like taking notes as it was written, but it was like clear, especially like Router, like her especially, like just did not care what you had to say. They were just willing to like put on a show and let you have your moment to say something, but they already made their decisions.
That's it.
Like it was a done conclusion. They were just completely shut out from hearing what you had to say.
Yeah.
What Arthur had to say.
Yep. Colleen makes a really great point. Then why don't they ever want to help support the children after they're born? Yeah, and Catch says it great, because it was never about the children. It's never about the children. It's about control. Cheyenne says, I posted Lucy's quote from the book exactly relating to this conversation. We're all learning. I do think this book's very important, and I'm so glad he's done this. I will say that, yeah, the people that should be reading this book won't, and the people that are loving this book, yeah, are good people. Is this a hand up? Darian, is that
Yes.
it? Okay, okay.
Yeah. No, as you said that just now, I was actually making a joke with a friend today that there's a book that you'll never see in Florida. Like, don't ban this one time for Florida.
There's a book that got banned in Florida? What?
No, I'm just saying, like, this I was telling my friend as a joke that this book
Oh, it would be
through
banned
the
in Florida.
NC. Yeah, it will be banned in Florida. It'll just never be allowed in Florida.
Yes.
Because they really, really like keeping people from having access to books.
And it's so harmless, and to see and to try and portray it as being harmful, it doesn't make sense. So much of this doesn't make sense. And Colleen, what I'm learning about that the most is that arguments that they have, that doesn't make sense. In the same breath, there's a contradiction. I had one today. Yesterday? A guy argued, it's not misogyny, just women shouldn't be in executive positions. I was like, in the same fucking sentence. I just, what?
Tell me you don't know the definition of the word misogyny without saying I don't know the definition of the word misogyny.
So you just can't answer to that.
Conversation come up.
It was
Right
my
after, like,
friend.
saying, I'm not racist, but, and
Oh.
then everything is negated after but.
I will give you guys the whole skinny on it, because it was a friend who did a beautiful heartfelt post saying, as a woman, I really wanted to see a female president. And this is why, as a woman, this is really harmful and hurtful. This is the second woman who's gone up for presidency where it's you know, that guy's better. And it's like, how does that make sense? Her comments were flooded. And I was like, how do people, I was like, I want to try and learn about how this is upsetting people. And a guy, and he's like maybe mid-40s, a creative director at a company, had a blue check mark, went on a tirade essentially saying that it's not misogyny. It's not about the fact that she's a, that she's a woman. It's just that fundamentally women cannot keep calm under immense pressure. And I'm like, guys pass out when their wives are having babies, and they're the ones who are pushing. Like, I think Trump is probably the most likely to be so petty that he pushes the mute button just because he didn't like that. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I interjected myself in the conversation just to write after his, it's not misogyny, just women shouldn't be in executive positions. I said that's literally misogyny. And then he kept going and explained to me that actually what he's describing is masculine and feminine, and masculine is stoic and provider and, keep calm in these situations, and women are erratic and, hysterical and have lots of emotion, and they're just not cut out for that. They should just raise children. And then my friend, because I screenshot it and I just sent it to her and I said, this guy is unhinged. And she came in guns blazing and she was just like, what? Excuse me? Because this guy in his argument about masculine and feminine says, women can't get mad at men for doing man things, just like men can't get mad at women for giving birth or being on the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine. And my friend she's like tapped in on the argument and said, did you literally just debase women to only having children or being in a swimsuit? Is that all a woman is? And this guy just outed himself so hard, where it's like, that's the only thing a man would be mad about that he couldn't have. And it's just like, that's all a woman's worth is. And she was just like, do you understand how stupid you sound? So that was that whole thing. And I got really mad. And so I just took it out to, the internet. And I will say I had such an overwhelmingly positive response from men being like, what the hell, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I needed that. I just needed to be reminded that this is only one guy thinking, this is only half the country thinking this way, and it's not the other half of the country thinking this way. Ali says, by that definition, Trump is feminine, erratic, emotional. No, he's just he is a type A narcissist, which is the most dangerous person to have in a position of power. Anyway, Toaster Poster says their quest for control and authority has made them irrational. They don't care about being wrong or shamed as long as they win. And I think that's why the votes went the way they did. They just wanted to win. It was about winning. Vaidin.
Yeah, so that kind of gets back to your original point about definition of words. Like, people will not like a word. They won't like being called misogynist or sexist or racist or whatever other word, but they will fit the definition even if they just don't like being called it. They don't feel themselves as being that. And in this case, in the book, like, they will, like, they use these words against the children. Like, they're occupying their house. They're living there. They're portrayed as monsters instead of being children. Like, so it's very important. Framing the language is extremely important. And the author does a great job of that during the hearing. He keeps the message clear that these kids are children. They need to be taught, but they're not being trained as an army. They're not being weaponized in any way.
The problem is, though, when they repeatedly didn't adopt the language in here, that to me says this person isn't willing to learn. Stop spending energy on people not willing to learn, because that's when their argument just comes out being like, are you offended? It's just and you're like, cool. This is nowhere. But I liked the fact that yes, he was directing that to one person, but it was in front of hundreds. So hundreds of people were privy to that important discussion. And that's why I think people with platforms need to use their platforms for good from time to time.
Yeah, like, that's crucial, because, like, when you're talking to someone in a public with a public audience, the person you're talking to may not agree with you, and they may not have good intentions. They might be willing to just not to listen to anything you're saying, but either way, you're not there for them. Usually, you're there for the audience. You're there to, inform them or to keep them in,
and even if one person,
exactly. So the one person you don't have to worry about beating them or arguing. You just need to make sure you're doing what's best for the audience. So teach them what you need to teach them. So that's always the focus. Like, no matter how bad the person you're talking to is, it's the people watching that are the most important.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think what's harder and harder on social media, even if you do have an eloquent conversation or if you're fighting for something that you do believe in. And again, my personality type means that I always see both ways. I'm like, well, what if someone who truly has traditional values and doesn't think that homosexuality is warranted, but it's truly their belief and they're trying to fight for their belief, then how am I different? And I think that's even brought up in the book. The kids challenge that. They're like, well, why are you telling us to fight for this when they're fighting for what they think's right? So who's right? And I paid attention to that, because that's something that I struggle with a lot of the time, where I'm like, how am I going to shit on someone's views and not want my views shut on? Like who is fundamentally right? And I had a thought about this as well with Blue and Red, where it was, you know, community versus individual, or compassion versus like, you know, self-preferenced. I lost my train of thought. That sucks. Maude, you were so close, but you've been ranting a little too much and your brain cut you off. It'll come back to me in about 7 seconds. What is the time setting in this book? We talk about music from our world. They have radio and cars. I don't recall mention of TV or computers. I picture it sort of like mid-90s, but I don't think that it's supposed to. I think we actually interviewed TJ about that, and he... Oh, I just had my thought. I knew it would come back. I think it's on one side, it's about being right and wrong. I think that their belief is this is right and that is wrong. And I think on another side, it's literally good and evil. And the way that I measure that is look at the extremes, look at the extremists, because every side has an extreme view, and the extremist side of it is dangerous to the whole. Because that's where people put the focus, because it's the most harmful. And the extremists on the left is cancel culture, which again goes against my belief of learning and wanting to learn is the most powerful thing that we can do. If someone fucks up once and you cancel them, you actually deny them the chance to grow and learn. And so you actually create spiteful, hateful people by canceling. That's what I think. If someone cannot change who they are, yeah, no, bye, done. We're cutting you off. Got to give people that chance and provide that space to want or to see if they're willing to learn. That's the extreme on the left. The extreme on the are Nazis. So that's why I truly believe it's the difference between good and evil and right and wrong. Yeah, that's how I see it. And it sounds extreme, Nazis. So yeah, I think that there's a plethora. He knows how to right every wrong, right? Right, says Osiris. Yeah. Aaron, you've had your hand up, and we need to wrap up the conversations.
So just kind of go back to what you were saying about, like, you know, beliefs and stuff like that. I'm reminded of this quote and bit from Patton Oswalt, where in the bit he's basically ends up saying, it's like, well, you got to, you know, respect other people's beliefs, and he's like, no, you got to acknowledge their beliefs, but also reserve the right to tell that person that their beliefs are just stupid. You use more colorful languages, but this is your show, so no swearing.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. But yeah, basically, it's like one of his extreme examples is like somebody going up to the White House holding up a Green Lantern comic and saying, it's like, I want a Green Lantern ring because it was in a book I read. You know, to basically like say, well, I read something in the Bible, therefore that needs to be part of everybody's life. It's like, I respect that you believe what was in the Bible, but I got to also point out your belief to force on everybody else is just stupid.
Yeah. And it's like, is your belief harmful? Is your belief silencing women? Is your belief...
When you force that belief on others, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yes, forced belief. I mean, I still think if you do one of 10 things, you're going to hell for the rest of you forever. Like that... That's just me, though, and I was raised incredibly differently. And I will say, being in Nashville at this wedding, where there were 3 people in that relationship, God, they would not have met without God. It is because of God that their love is so strong. Like for me, I was like, wow, I've never experienced it. And I'm not here going, this is wrong. I was like, this is just so vastly different to what I've experienced. But then I saw other people, and like religion is a community. Like there is a sense of community there. And they played a gospel song. I'd never heard it before, but the guy running the I was going to say sermon. Yeah. The wedding was singing every single word. People had their eyes shut and their hands up. And I'm there going, this is fascinating. All of these people truly cherish religion and believe in this entity that is drawing love and beautiful things. And I was like, this is great. Like, this is so cool. I don't feel like I've missed out by any stretch like this, but it was really cool to be able to witness. And I will say because I was not raised religious, my parents' belief was learn about it all. If there's anything that stands out and you want to do it, we're going to support you 100%. We have opted out of it because our parents were quite strict about it and it's tarnished it. If you want it, all in. Talking to my religious friends are some of the best conversations I've had to learn about religion. And a friend of mine made the most powerful statement. She's like, it's not actually about religion. Like, the best part of religion isn't religion. It's like, forget everything about religion. She's like, the most important part is faith. It's faith over religion. And when she explained the difference between faith and religion and said that the point of all of it was actually faith, I was like, oh my God, this absolutely makes sense. This is so, like, I totally respect it and I love it and I get it. And that was really, really important for me. So it's like, yeah, when it's like I'm looking to faith for this particular instance, or, you know, I have faith over the, I was like, wow, that's fantastic. That's so cool. I've also seen religion be weaponized and be like, ew, that's gross. You're holding people in a hostage situation over words. But there you go. Ali says, as someone who has many traditional beliefs, I take onus with two things. One, putting policy over character. Oh, I'd love to learn more about that, Ali. Putting policy over character. What do you mean in that regard? Like, a person could be fundamentally good but do one bad thing and therefore they're wrong? Because that's what's happening with Arthur, right? He broke the law to help other people. So the policy is that he's wrong, but his character is that he's right. Ooh, that's a good way to bring it back. Number two, pro-life should be in every sense. Pro-life should be in every sense. Oh, this is pro-life. Pro-life is actually no gun violence, protecting women, protecting the marginalized of society. That's what pro-life should mean. Ah, well said. Really well said. Aaron says the movie Dogma has a great message about religion and faith and ideas. Yeah, love learning. Vaidin says Arthur is definitely chaotic good. How is he different from Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor? You know, it's that kind of thing. It's, you do what, just because law says it's wrong doesn't mean that
It did his own little underground railroad with magical community for how many years? Just like kind of shaking people around, getting them outside the law, who said that, like, yo, they need to be registered. It's like, the law says that, but doesn't mean it's a good law.
Do we know enough in this book about what it means to be a registered magical user? Are you monitored? Are your wings clipped? Like, what does it mean to be registered? What's taken from you? I don't know enough, and this book isn't sharing why people should be unregistered versus registered, what the cost is. I don't know. And that's, what are we fighting for? That's what I'm not sure about. The worst thing is that a lot of these orphanages were scared of the magical abilities, and so they would treat them terribly. But what does it mean to be registered? Where is he moving them? Is it just the orphanages that are bad? The rest of society, I didn't need a little bit more to go on. Lisa says, I don't remember that being explained at all. KPW says, yeah, it's not really explained. Are the children registered? Apparently all of them are, because they have their files, but David's not. But they know David's name now, and that's where the concern is. But how are they hiding? What are they hiding from? Like, is this, I don't know.
It kind of reminds me of the comic book series Fable. I don't know if you ever played the game Wolf Among Us, but it's basically based on that comic book series. So it's like all the people who can pass for human or can afford the thing to pass for human, the little magical like glamours.
Yeah.
Like, you're fine. But if you can't, you're off to the farm and you're basically just isolated from the rest of the world. You can't interact with anybody because you're
not human passing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which is why I think the focus being on Chauncey is a really good one, because, you know, apart from his red ringed eyes, like, Lucy could be human passing. Talia just needs a little bit of facial grooming and she could be human passing. But I mean, that's the thing. Why? KP Dubs.
I think.
No. I need to say this. Everyone needs to know the pun. David, who is the Yeti in the book, can create sort of ice cubes, says David was isolated. Good one. Yes, Vaidin.
I just like I think so. Yeah, you're right. It's not clearly explained what registration entails and what the worry is. But I think in the case of David, they're specifically worried because his parents were mentioned as being like literally hunted to
Yeah.
death, and so they're considered by certain like people like him who might be find out by other people and attacked some other way like that. Like we don't know who's after them. We don't know how people in the world treat them. Like so, there are people like that who definitely treat them as monsters and might attack. And by being registered, they probably find information on them. So
Right.
keep them unregistered. It keeps them off the grid essentially in that respect.
But the government's not killing them. It's people threatened by a monster.
Yeah,
Got it.
That's true. That is true. But yeah, it's also like we don't know what public information is public essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Stephanie, you made a great point. Do you want to have a chat about this one? The lack of description and talking about what it means to be registered could be the point. Oh, you went off mic. Maybe you're not there. Steph said, I think that might be the point why Klune doesn't mention it, that there's no reasoning behind why they're registered, just that they are and singled out for nothing. Okay, well, that's our time. Your homework is to finish the book. I hope that didn't pop and that wasn't too loud for everyone in headphones. We're going to finish the book. I'm going to read it instead of listen to it and see if that changes everything. I want everyone in show chat to tell me who your favorite is and why. I would have liked to have talked about that more. Jeff, tell me your favorite character. He immediately starts laughing.
I guess I'm partial to Zoe and Heather's relationship. I think that's kind of, while not the main thrust of the book and whatever, I think it's a really like the fact that Heather kind of made the mayor kind of made a switch around, and then and Zoe just being kind of owner of the island, but letting everybody kind of exist there, and then also helping with the kids, and I don't know, I think that's a really heartwarming and lovely part of it.
I like that too. Avery, favorite character? We're going around, so have yours ready.
I like Sal in this one. Just seeing his growth as a character and him coming into his own is just really sweet.
I like that. Darian, favorite character? KP Dub's next.
Don't really have a favorite character.
You don't have one?
I guess no, not really.
Favorite.
But I guess like to go with Avery, Sal is a more interesting character.
Sal is really shaping up. Yeah. KP Dubs.
Kind of the same. It's hard to pick a favorite. Like when we're focusing on Chauncey, it's Chauncey. But then a minute later, we're focusing on David, and he's great. And
Not
then
mine.
you know what?
Sorry, David. Jog on.
It's awesome. What are you talking about? All his questions about like, I get my own room. Like, come on.
The voice for it is, I get my own room. So, yeah.
See, I didn't have any of that. Just
Yeah,
reading.
I know.
Physical is better. I'm telling you. Stop with the audio. Okay, that was my.
When it's good, though, it's amazing. Darren, favorite character?
I think I kind of agree with KB Dubs. It depends on what you're reading. There's a good section with Fee. There's good sections with lots of characters, but yeah, I'd say probably Chauncey.
Okay. Everyone who has a favorite character, tell me it now.
I like
Sword,
Lucy.
just because he's the emotional support wyvern for Sal that helped him break out of his own shell because of their relationship.
Theo did not get much time, I don't think, in the first book, so that's good. Who said it was Lucy?
I did. That's me.
Yeah, same.
Lucy's just the star. I don't know. He has
the funniest lines.
Yeah. It's just think like all of his lines are pretty entertaining.
Although it's getting a little, this is the thing. It's like, let him, if he keeps talking the talk, let him walk the walk. He keeps threatening all these things, and it's like, is it empty or is he going to come good on that? Like, let Lucy live. Robin, you're here. Favorite character?
Chauncey, and then second is Talia.
Yeah, Talia needs a bit more love. Actually, I will say the narrator does a really good job of Talia's voice. I like that one a lot. Talia's kind of a little bit like Lucy as well, where it's like violence first, ask questions later. And is it Fee who's like, no, Talia has the emotional manipulation down? I respect that. All right, everyone. Exciting. Talia has some great moments later in the book too. Oh yeah, because Cheyenne, you finished it. What can we look forward to the second half of the book?
I mean, it's just fun. Like, it's pretty much everything that we talked about. It's just fun. I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, but no, I enjoyed the whole thing. Like, I couldn't put it down. Like, I literally read it in like 3 days. Like, I read it on the flight there, and then I finished it on the flight back, and those were only 2-hour flights. So it was like a quick, like, I'm in.
Gosh, you're so much better than me. I was struggling. I ended up downloading Fallout Shelter on my phone again. See you later. That game's still good. I don't know why. Just sucked into that one. Yeah, I haven't been as drawn into this one because it's just a little waiting in the shallows for me. Great chats. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Avery, you only started the book today. Did we spoil things for you?
No, I started it today, and then I got up to where we were supposed to be because I just sat down and I couldn't put it down, so I just read it all.
That's good stuff. All
I
right.
had nothing else going on
I
today,
listened to
so-
most of it today too.
How do you find the narrator?
I don't like it. So like I found parts where I couldn't really differentiate between Linus and Arthur. They sound exactly the same. There's a bit where he actually says out loud as part of the line that Lucy was talking, but he was doing it in Chauncey's voice. And I was like, how do you mess that up? They're 2 totally different voices. But just little things like that. And it's very, the kids' voices are very Sesame Street.
Well, even Arthur. Right. Let's talk about that right now, shall we?
Yeah. It's not my favorite narration, but it's the fastest way for me to catch up with the book. So
I hear you. Aaron, then Darian, and then we're going to wrap it up.
I just wanted to make a real point since we're on the audiobook thing with narration. I just looked up for like The Last Unicorn, if you want to get ahead to that.
Is it Michael Kramer?
The guy. No, his name is Orla Cassidy and Joshua Kane. So it's 2 narrators, but it's like.
Oh, I've already bought it.
one
So
is- I'm just listening to the preview on Audible. It's like he's boring. So
okay. Thanks for the heads up.
that's why I'm glad I have the book.
Speed it up.
Yeah.
Everything's better. Speed it up.
Yep. Absolutely. Darian, you had one last thought?
Yeah, just about the Audible version. It's a little disorienting for me because the book is set like in a version of England, it seems, because it talk about pounds and lorries and stuff like that.
Yep.
But the voice sounds so American to me,
Yes.
so so that really trips me up.
Because the language, it's written very much like, like a Harry Potter book in a way. It's
Yeah.
it's the
But, an American
Department
accent.
of Magical Things. It's very much got that pompous sort of British thing, and it ain't. So yeah, there's a disconnect there as well. Alrighty. I would like to raid into someone who is playing Dragon Age. I don't see anyone doing that. Why is no one playing the game? Why would that happen? I found someone. This person I've met about 5-6 times, and every single time they forget. And so let's see. Only I would find that funny. I actually called someone out at New York Comic Con. I'd met her like 5-6 times, and I was like, "Hi, I'm going to tell you the times where we'd met before," and she felt really terrible. But I was like, "No, it's nice to think that someone like me, who's like a foot taller than you, could be unforgettable." I'm all right with it. I forgot to end stream last time. I will try not to do that again this time. I'll see everyone this time next week. Excited to chat. My gamers, let's talk about a time when we're all free so we can play video games together. Okay, bye.